Under the Hood.
Okay, well, welcome back to Under the Hood at HMTV, Hildebrand Motors Television. And once again, we are back with Richard, the shop foreman, and of course, I'm Tim Bowen. And we're here today to talk about spring preparation. So, Richard, what does one do for spring preparation?
Well, basically, you kind of want to do a general check over of your vehicle, whether you like to just do a walk around and have a general look over. You kind of anticipate what may be needed to be done for the springtime. That could include a lot of different things. Now, I like to walk around, have a good look at my tires, say, okay, you know, it may be time to change them whenever that is, and we'll talk about that. But there are other things. Your windshield is, and we've chatted about this before, but it takes a lot of beating in the winter time. The general appearance of the car, weather strips, that type of thing. So, and we'll touch on that here too. So, it's generally, you know, as technicians, we're trained to spot these things. If you're looking at it yourself and you think, well, maybe I'll get a semi-annual done and they'll check that out for me.
Right.
That's generally where we like to point you.
Right. So talking about tires, when is a good time to change those tires?
Okay. Obviously, from a geographical standpoint, it varies from place to place. In Canada, it's quite extreme, and as most people know, we can get snow at almost any time of the year. So people like to start thinking about this probably in March or so, or maybe even April. But as a rule, you kind of, you know, look at the long range forecast and say, okay, you know, I'm going to go in for my spring semi-annual. I think we should probably change the tires, you know, in that time frame. Most people are doing it late March, early April, that type of thing.
So being that we're in Canada, and is it better to go from, say, if you have the winter tires, to go to all season or summer? What's the best for this area?
This area probably, and this is a personal opinion obviously, but I would suggest you probably in the summer go with an all-season tire. You know, the mud and snow doesn't really fit for that, but an all-season kind of covers the rain aspect and you know, maybe the spring driving conditions a bit too. So winter tire is a winter tire, and they're softer tread compound. You want something that's going to wear a little bit longer, because generally we have the summer tires on longer than we do the winter tires.
Right.
So
It's good probably to have an all season, because you, like you said, you never do know what the weather's going to be like.
Exactly.
In the summer. I mean, you know, we've seen it snow in August and stuff like that, so you just never know.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is better to be prepared to have.
Yeah, and the all season gives you a little bit of flexibility that way too.
So what if you're driving a diesel truck? Should you be aware of the fuel and what all goes with that?
Okay, as a consumer, you don't generally have to worry about the fuel issue yourself. The diesel fuel does get changed from summer to winter, and that's kind of at the discretion of the fuel companies themselves. They have a summer and a winter fuel, obviously, but there's not much control that the consumer has over when they change that over. So it is something to be aware of, as usually more so when they're switching back to winter, because if you have a summer fuel and it's been sitting in your truck for quite a while, it can be an issue because it'll gel up and that type of thing. From the winter to summer, it's not quite as critical. But I don't know if every diesel driver is aware that there's, you know, the different fuels.
Right. I mean, especially if you're like by your truck or whatever, and you've been down in Arizona, they're not going to have winter fuel down there.
Exactly.
And you'll be coming back up here. It's still winter, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So depending on when you come back, just be aware of that. And it may cause a drivability issue. It's a possibility, I suppose. But hopefully, you know, when you come up here, you're fueling up anyhow, and they are still using the proper fuel.
Now, can it harm your truck?
Not really. Usually you just end up with a starting issue or sometimes even just a drivability problem where you notice it's not performing quite the way it's supposed to.
So if you haven't changed, if you have been in the States and you do have summer, or if you had in your garage and you do have summer fuel and stuff like that, it's not, you don't have to freak out if it's not running properly or anything like that. It's just a matter of the truck getting used to the different fuels.
Exactly, and just, refueling as quick as you can.
Right.
Yeah.
So you did bring up a good point before earlier about windshield wipers. Now tell us a little bit about that.
We have covered on the wiper issue before and even the windshield issue, but for the most part now we're advising to change the wipers at least twice a year, just because the extreme conditions here and the salt and the sand and all that type of thing, it does wear on the wipers. If you notice it's streaking and you've tried to clean them once or twice and it's still streaking, well, that's a pretty good indicator that you maybe should be looking at another pair of wipers. As a rule, they do last. Depending on the usage, they do last a little longer than 6 months. But it's one of those things with personal preference too, where if you don't mind the streakiness, it's always a hazard to not be able to see through your windshield properly.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Obviously. Yeah.
yeah.
Now, is there a difference, like quality of wiper? Like you can get cheaper wipers and you get more expensive wipers, and you can get the one with the Teflon coating and all that kind of stuff. Like.
Usually there are those options out there, but for the most part, if you go with a not too cheaply made wiper blade, you're probably going to be okay, especially if you're doing it every 6 months.
Right, and if you come in here for your semi-annual and stuff like that you could get the wiper that goes with your vehicle.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And another thing people don't always realize is your wiper blades aren't always the same length from one side to the other.
Right.
And that can be a little confusing when you're actually purchasing it, at an aftermarket store. So.
Right. So if you want a decent wiper but you're not too sure what to buy, if you come to the dealership, parts department can help you out with that, no problem, and get you the right ones for your vehicle.
You bet. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And usually they do stock pretty well for every model. So.
Right.
There are the odd exceptions, but.
Yeah. So if you do have any questions or whatever, feel free to come into Hildebrand Motors, talk to the parts department. They'll be more than happy to help you out and find you the right wipers for your vehicle. So what about lube of the doors and the hinges and all that kind of stuff?
The road spray in the winter and even in the summertime, it does get up in between the cracks of the vehicle at times, and can affect the operation of the doors and on the semi-annual, our technicians do lube the hinges and clean them off from that. But if it's something you like to do yourself, or if you notice your door is kind of sticky, there are sprays out there that are available to lube them. Especially after the winter season, it's always a good idea, regardless.
Right.
And
get all the crud and everything in there.
Exactly. Yeah, and like I say, with our semi-annuals, we do that as a courtesy anyhow. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when you bring your vehicle in for the semi-annual, they take the time to clean the grime and all that kind of stuff up.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing that on a regular basis, you really should be doing that yourself. Is that correct?
Right. Most people notice, especially when they get the stuff on their pant legs when they're crawling in and out, and you see that, and you look at, and there's dirt by the weather strips and that, and when you're doing your clean, maybe take a little extra time just to get an old rag and wipe all the dirt and stuff out of there. It saves on your weather strips in the long run, and
right, and with the stripping around the door and all that kind of stuff, I mean, all that grime and stuff could eat away on. It's just rubber, so I mean, it's going to get worn, right?
Yeah. If you just neglect it, it will start to wear on them, and they get hard and they crack, and you get little noises and that are offensive to most people anyhow.
Right.
Just like I say, an old rag is generally the best idea, just so it's something you can throw away or whatever. But
right.
And vacuum out all the little chunks of dirt and rocks and stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know about you guys, but I know Because my wife getting outside of the door and stuff, she's always complaining about dirt getting on her pant leg and stuff like that, and just takes a minute just to clean it off.
Exactly, yeah.
And then you save your marriage. Hey, what do you know? But anyway, so that's about it for spring preparation. Don't hesitate to come in, talk to the service writers, talk to the parts department. They'll be able to give you helpful tips to do it yourself, or to come in and we'll go through the semi-inspection and make sure everything's done for you. So yeah, don't hesitate to come on by and pick our brains. That's what we're here for. Again, this is another day of HMTV Under the Hood, and hopefully it was helpful to you, and we look forward to talking to you again. Thanks, and talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great. I think that went really good.
I think that one was a good one too. You know, any little suggestion that people can make for do-it-yourself too, right? You know, that's generally I think what people are looking for.
I hope that recorded.
Oh.
I should have brought my glasses with me.